Lecture 1C is very short. We're just going to discuss why do we want to learn about Earth and space science. I'll let you know that all of these reasons overlap with one another, and everyone has their own particular reason for wanting to learn about the natural world, but here are several that make sense for the broad aspects of society. So first, Earth and space science addresses practical issues. Your particular geography and geology determine where and how you live, what you eat and drink, your weather, seasons, and natural hazards that exist where you live, and more broadly, how to interpret issues with societal consequences. So in the figure, we have an earthquake from Indonesia in 2018 that has destroyed various buildings. So that would be an example of a natural hazard in Indonesia that affects how Indonesians live. Earth and space science also informs us on resources and our environment. So Earth provides all of our resources, all of the food that we eat, clothing that we wear, devices that we use, come in some shape or form from farming or mining of minerals and soil, and so it's important for us to know about how these materials are created and used and how we use them. And additionally, is the use of all of these resources sustainable for our current way of life in terms of any location, say as Floridians, as people of the United States or of the Western Hemisphere, or on Earth as an entire species of humanity. And does extraction and use of these resources affect environmental quality? Scientists say that they do. So on the bottom, we've got a picture of a coal mine where miners excavating energy resources. If you're curious, there is no coal in Florida, so most of our energy still does come from coal. So we are importing that energy from other places around the United States and the world in order to keep our light bulbs on and our computers running. Another reason to learn about Earth and space science is it simply helps us appreciate our surroundings. So in the example of geoscience, we can view these things called road cuts, where in order to make space for a road to go through a rock or a hill, they need to blast out the rocks, and so geologists really enjoy them because we get fresh rock to look at that hasn't been subject to erosion or something called weathering that destroys the rock face. So here is example of a cliff in California with a geologist for scale at the bottom with a red hat. And non-geologists may look at this photo and just say, oh, that's just a bunch of rocks put together. But a geologist might look at the photo and see a story. And that's one of the things I really like about geology, is that every rock is able to tell a story of its history. And if you know how to read the rocks and interpret them, then you can interpret that history for that rock, and not only for that rock, for that region, really. And so here is a picture of what geologists call folds, and the geologist for scale. And so what happened here was some sort of sideways pressure pushed the rocks together and squished them so that they were able to bend and fold. So if you imagine just taking a sheet of paper, 8.5 by 11 paper, and slowly compressing it, you'll see that it bends into shapes. It'll have hills and valleys in that shape, and that's what's happened here. So this has been the result of some compression in Earth's history. Okay, in terms of not necessarily geology things, but thinking about geoscience and ocean science and atmospheric and space science, we can think about the beach, well, as an interface between the land and the sea, and life on land and life in the sea. And understanding what a beach is and how they form can help us to appreciate more the beaches. Take, for example, the beaches here in Florida. The clouds, if we look up at the sky, we're able to see the clouds, and if we can interpret how they're moving or what they look like, we may be able to forecast a change in weather. And then the night sky, our solar system and other stars each have their own space in the sky that is determined by where we are in the solar system and the galaxy and the universe. And understanding their patterns of movement and their positions for certain seasons will help us understand deeper where we exist and why we exist in this planet Earth. Importantly, for why do we study Earth and space science is because change is always happening. So we can divide change into two categories: natural change and anthropogenic change. Whereas natural change results from natural forces, take a hurricane for example, and anthropogenic change is a result from human activity, which take an example of a chainsaw and a bulldozer doing some logging activity that takes down the forest. That's the right-hand picture. Now, importantly, hurricanes may be caused, increased frequency of hurricanes in recent time may be caused by anthropogenic change. So you'll notice that there's not, sometimes in some cases, there's not exactly one culprit or another for a particular natural event. But there is some question as to whether what's to blame for these events. And in the largest context, Earth is just one planet in a larger universe. And if we want to know about the universe, we should aim to study Earth processes because they can inform us about other planets. And we should study the solar system and deep space because they may also be able to inform us about Earth. So, based on your previous experiences, your previous responses, if you could study one globally relevant Earth or space science topic right now, what would it be and how would you conduct your study? Be as specific as possible because focused science is always better than vague science. And in your discussion groups, which I will create in Canvas, I'll ask you to share this topic with your peers and provide feedback to one another. This ends lecture 1C.